Howdy, guys, and welcome to Cliff Notes, and welcome to night number 38 of the overnight feed recaps for Big Brother season 27. A good Friday to all of y'all. Certainly a good Friday for some people in the Big Brother house, not so much for some others. We're going to talk about that. First of all, we've got to talk about last night's episode. We lost Zach in an 8-2 vote. Little surprised that it was not any closer than that, but at the end of the thing, we had a few people that chose to vote against Zach, for example, Morgan. I don't know if there's other stuff going on or it's just a matter at the end of the day. They realized the votes were not there for Zach trying to vote with the House. They certainly cried enough tears after he went home to suggest that maybe isn't what they would have wanted to do, but no matter. Zach is gone with an 8-2 vote. Just another reminder, if you've got a power that can pull yourself off the block, use it. Don't ever make assumptions. Even if Zach had been correct, which I'm not sure he was, but even if he thought he was correct on Monday about having the votes to keep him in the House, that doesn't mean that you've got the votes 3 days later when the actual voting takes place. You can't ever make too many assumptions in the House. Zach's going to spend the rest of his days with the woulda, coulda, shouldas of what would have happened if I just used that veto power. Was he worried too much about Morgan, or was it just that he didn't want to give $10,000 to Ava? He claimed the first. I'm kind of going with the latter, but it doesn't matter at this point, does it? He went home in Survivor, going with an idol in the pocket. In Big Brother, he went home with a power unused, and worst thing in the world. But Zach has gone home. Keanu, on the other hand, does seem to be learning. Keanu won that blockbuster competition, and I recall there was talk from Keanu that if he was close to winning that, and it looked like Vince was also close, he would potentially throw it to Vince because Keanu was so convinced that he had the votes to stay over Zach. And so he was considering doing that. Well, we had a perfect situation. If you watch that competition, it certainly looks like if Keanu was not going to win, Vince was further along than Zach was. Keanu could have sat there and waited until the last possible second. As soon as Vince completed it, Keanu could have hit the button or let Vince go grab it. It was absolutely fail safe within Keanu's power to flip it over to Vince. He chose not to do it, and smart move by Keanu. We're making fun of his play a lot so far this season, but he's definitely a comp beast. He definitely doesn't break under pressure. That was a competition where I think you had to just be calm and cool as you put the puzzle together. He did it. He survives. He chose to pull himself off the block. So good job, Keanu. He lives to fight another day. All right. With all of that, we've got a new HOA. Yeah. Oh, yes, indeed, we do. I've got to say, I was disappointed. We'd heard it was going to be the wall comp. It was not. I was thinking it would be at least starting live on the broadcast. It did not. We didn't get to see it on the live feeds either. I think with the blockbuster comp taking place every Thursday night, I think seeing live HOH comps afterwards may just almost be a thing of the past. I don't know that we're going to get a lot of them this season, which is disappointing, but hey, CBS didn't consult me when they came up with their game plan. But we do have a new HOH, even though we haven't seen it yet. We'll see it on Sunday night's TV show. Feeds return around 11 o'clock or so. It's waiting, watching those freaking little animals running around in the shelter. We finally get the feeds back about 11 o'clock or so, Big Brother time, 1 o'clock Houston time. And we quickly see that the new HOH is Rachel. Rachel has won the HOH. Talking about someone who up and down, she was feeling not so good. Remember, she was kind of asking Mickey to vote her out a couple of weeks ago, and then talking about how she wasn't going to go to jury. Well, she has turned it around. Rachel has won the HOH competition, and she's ready to go out and do some conquering at this point in time. I think Rachel's turned it up another gear now that we're getting a little later into the season. The competition itself, we haven't seen it yet, but it seemed to involve the house guests going into different rooms and some kind of memory questions about the number of items in various rooms. It sounds like perhaps people were eliminated one at a time or different rounds. Someone was eliminated, perhaps. It reminds me a little bit during our season. There was a competition. I can't remember gosh, was it the one that Jessica won? Perhaps we had to stare at a lot of TV screens that had us going to different camps, art camp, band camp, whatever, and then had to answer questions about what we saw in those pictures. I think it was something similar to that, but in the end, Rachel has won. Apparently, Morgan came in a very, very close second. And Kelly was right behind her in third place. So props to the ladies. Once again, we've got some strong players on the guy side as well, but they aren't putting it into play when it comes to the HOH. So Rachel wins it. Two other ladies right behind. Now, just as a reminder, we now have 8 women in the house, 4 men in the house. We'll see what Rachel wants to do going forward. But the ladies definitely taking care of business yesterday. All right, so who is happy with the Rachel HOH victory last night? Well, certainly it would seem like Keanu and Ashley and Will and Ava going to feel very comfortable about the situation. Not so happy would be Vince and Morgan and Mickey and Lauren. And then somewhere in the middle, Kat and Riley, perhaps. All right. We've got start the live feeds after that. Well, feeds come back. We know that Rachel's the HOH. We've got Vince, who already is telling Keanu that he is sure that Vince is himself. He's going to go on the block. He thinks that he could be up on the block alongside Morgan and Lauren. Remember, now is Zach gone? This is kind of the last of this little group. So he's thinking, yeah, Rachel could easily go after the three of us here. Keanu is thinking that possibly could be. We'll see how it happens. He says, I think Mickey could go up as a renom as well. That is certainly a possibility. Keanu is telling Vince, though, that he doesn't want to go against Rachel. It's her HOH, and he understands, and he wants to work with Rachel. But at the same time, if Vince is on the block and if Keanu was to win veto, he would use that on Vince. He's like, I don't want to alienate Rachel and all that, so I got to be careful, but don't think I'm going to abandon you, brother. If I win the veto, you'll be good whether you're on the block or not. Keanu is talking about Rachel and himself and Vince and Kelly and Riley and Kat should be able to run things in the house. They've got enough votes at that point in time. They should be able to control everything. So again, who has that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 5, 6 votes. He's pulling Riley and Kat in as well. And that may be a feasible operation. We've seen Rachel talking about liking Riley and Kat's showmance and all that. So Keanu's feeling like they've got the votes to control a lot of what happens in this house. And Vince, if you're with us, and that's a big thing. Rachel and Vince, are they going to work together voting wise? Not just this week, but going forward when Rachel isn't HOH, and that remains to be seen. All right, we've got Mickey and Morgan talking to each other. Morgan is just as certain as Vince is. He thinks he's going up. Morgan is just as certain that she is going to get put up by Rachel. I think she could very well be correct in that. Mickey at one point says it could be her going up instead. Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen, but we'll talk about that as we go through the evening. All right, we've got Ava and Ashley and Will talking and feeling pretty good about their position in the house right now. And basically, Ava at one point said, I don't really care who she puts up as long as it's not us. I'm fine with whoever she wants to put up. So they're feeling pretty good. Will is saying that. Now, this is interesting. Will said a couple of times, he says, Keanu has no idea that we're sending him home. I don't know if he is talking about this week or he's just talking about that maybe this partnership that Keanu envisions isn't going to last long term. I don't know for certain if Will is aware that Keanu and Rachel actually do seem to have a bit of a working relationship, because Will is acting as though Keanu could be in trouble this week. I don't see it. I mean, maybe Rachel does something wild and crazy, but I don't see it. But Will's saying that Keanu's talking to us, no idea what's getting ready to happen. Ashley later says the same thing. So maybe there's just not completely familiar, or we'll find out. All right, we've got Will also saying that he likes Mickey and Morgan in terms of working with them and people and all that. He says, but Mickey was getting way too big for her britches. And he then tells Ava, says, that's a term that old people use. I use that term all the time, Will. So what are you suggesting here? Yeah, I've said too big for your britches all the times on this recap. So I guess that makes me old. All right, but Will's pointing out that Mickey maybe got a little too confident. We'll just leave it at that over the last week or two. All right, we've got Kelly and Lauren talking. Lauren's been crying about I don't is it because she's at risk this week, or is it because she lost Zach? I think it's more because she lost Zach, but she's been crying. Kelly is trying to console her and say, it's all right. I went through the same thing when I lost Adrian. I get it, Lauren. But she's trying to help Lauren a little bit with that. Kelly is now saying, talking about Rachel and saying, so Rachel tried to convince me earlier in the morning yesterday, or Rachel tried to convince me earlier that the house had flipped and that everyone was keeping Zach. And she's saying, look, Rachel just likes to stir things up. She wasn't doing it to protect Zach or anything. She's just trying to stir things up because that's what Rachel does when she plays a game of Big Brother. We've got Rachel and Will and Ashley and Ava talking to each other, talk about the week going forward, what's going to happen. There was talk about Rachel thinks there's a double eviction that could be coming up next week, and she's worried about that. But they're also talking about the veto. Someone mentions OTEV, and Rachel says, too early for OTEV. Well, maybe not so much, Rachel, because we've already seen a teaser that it is indeed going to be OTEV this week. Ashley's complaining, saying it's going to be the worst week ever because they're not going to get the backyard until after the veto competition, Saturday or Sunday. We never got the backyard between the HOH and the veto competition because they didn't do as many comps in this other secondary location as they are this season. But Ashley's dreading the fact they're going to be stuck in this house till Saturday night, Sunday morning. Learn to live with it, Ashley. It's going to get worse. But she's talking about that. Yes, indeed, it is going to be the OTEV competition. We'll see how that works out. Watching these people play the game. Rachel is talking about that. They start talking about this vote. We know that Will voted to save Zach, to vote out Vince, but there were 2 votes cast. We also know that Rachel was the other vote. Will is not trying to hide his, and no one's holding against Will. In fact, Will at one point says, if I had turned around and voted to send Zach out after he gave me the gift of that trip to London, America would have hated me. And I think he was telling Ava at the time, Ava said, no one's blaming you. No one in this house is upset about Will. But the other vote, Rachel is denying that she tried to get Vince out. I'm not sure why she thinks that it's necessary to do so. Well, I don't think it hurts her if people know about that. But if she denies it, it could cause people to look in other directions and maybe be trusting other people quite as much, such as an Ashley or a Kelly, someone like that. So that may be some of the incentive. But Rachel continues to maintain that, oh, no, I voted out Zach. Once I understood what was happening, I'm not going to go against the house and all that. Well, she did, but she's not going to tell anyone that. They're talking a little bit about other people in the house. They're talking about Mickey. They're talking about how they all love Mickey. Even though Will said she's a little too big for her britches, they all love Mickey. Will and Ashley are talking about Vince and basically saying, look, Zach's gone. Vince is powerless at this point in time. Will saying something about, yeah, we de-weaponized Vince, which Rachel's paying attention to. And I think she may be thinking the same thing, that as much as she wanted Vince out previously, perhaps she's defanged him enough that there's other directions that she can be looking right now. All right, later we've got Vince talking to Mickey, telling Mickey, he's saying, look, Rachel said she loved you. I mean, she likes you, and that that she had very kind things to say about you, Mickey. So you may be safe this week. Just to keep that in mind. All right, we've got Vince talking to Morgan and Mickey combined at one point. Now Vince is thinking that Rachel could potentially put up Morgan and Mickey and Lauren and backdoor Vince. We'll talk about it. Say he's saying, yeah, I'm afraid I could be a backdoor, so I can't compete in the video competition. And unfortunately, Mickey, as much as Rachel said she loves you, it could be Morgan, Mickey, and Lauren up, but we'll see. But I'd be the target. I'd be the backdoor target. Mickey tells Ava at one point while they're talking, she wouldn't come for Rachel. She hopes Rachel understands that Mickey would never come after Rachel. Well, I'm not sure that's necessarily the case. Rachel may not see Mickey on the radar right now, but Mickey certainly saw Rachel on the radar. Mickey has talked a lot of, thrown Rachel under the bus a lot over the past few days. But now she's telling Ava, said, I'm going to be targeting Rachel. Why would I possibly target her? She is worried that Rachel might backdoor her as well. Vince is worried about that. Mickey's worried about that as well. But then eventually she says, I'm worried about it, but I don't think that Rachel is going to put me up this week. All right, Vince is asking Rachel. He's having a conversation with her, and it's kind of the worst possible situation for Vince. Out of the frying pan into the fire. He wins Blockbuster. I mean, he didn't win Blockbuster. Take that. He wins the vote. Zach goes home. Vince survives. But now Rachel, the person who he's most afraid with, has won the new HOH. So Vince is very worried. He's asking Rachel, saying, "Look, if I go on the block, so be it. It's whatever. But I please ask you, can you front door me? I don't want to be backdoored. Can you please front door me so I can play in veto?" Rachel's laughing about it. She's saying, "Why do you think that you're at the level that I would worry about needing to backdoor you?" And she's laughing. Vince is laughing, saying, "All right, well, point taken. I appreciate the humor in your response there, Rachel." He does tell her, says, "Look, however this needs to work, the longer I stay around, the more I would be a continual block seat filler in terms of just needing someone else to put on the block. So I can serve the purpose for your game, Rachel. Just keep that in mind." But at the same time, he also tells her, he says, "I just came off the block. I really don't want to go up as a pawn. I'd hate to go up on the block less than 24 hours after I came off the block. That would not be my perfect situation. But if it helps, if I have to do it, I'll do it. But I don't want to do it, Rachel. Please, I don't want to do it." All right, Rachel is saying at one point that she's playing the game by herself, and Vince is saying, "No, there's a lot of people in here who like you." And she said, "Well, there's a difference between people liking you or being friendly with you or talking to you and playing the game with you." And she said, "No one is playing the game with me. I'm playing the game by myself." Now, remember, she in her first two seasons, she always had Brendan there with her as a ride or die. She always had someone that she could absolutely trust. And she may not feel like she's got that. The one she had like that, Amy and Jimmy, both headed out the door. So Rachel truly is probably feeling a little more isolated than she has in seasons past. All right, we've got Morgan and Vince and Lauren talking to each other. Little guilt trip feelings going on here. Vince is feeling bad because he didn't win the blockbuster. He keeps saying, "I'm so close, but Keanu is just so fast." No one has accused Keanu of being fast. Just the opposite over the last few days. Everyone's saying Keanu can't win the fast competitions. That's not who he is. Well, he won this one. So Vince is feeling very guilty that he didn't win the blockbuster. If he'd won the blockbuster, he could have pulled himself off, and then potentially Keanu would have gone home over Zach. So Vince is feeling somewhat responsible. Morgan is feeling bad because she didn't make Kat use the veto on Zach. She feels like if she had how do you force someone? But she's feeling like if she had talked Kat more and convinced her to pull Zach off, even if she went up, that she could have maybe won, and Keanu would have been out the door. So both of them feeling very guilty at this point in time. Vince is complaining about how the week went down in general. He's saying, "Look, it was a bad HOH for Ava because Zach would have never put her up. So for her to get him out, it just doesn't do her any good. It was a wasted HOH for Ava." I'm not sure I agree with that. I think Ava did a pretty good job of weakening the other side and taking out kind of a key linchpin in Zach. Now, Ava later says, "I feel bad for the kid." She's the kid, as though she's some ancient person in this house. I feel bad for the kid. I didn't even want to put him up. Well, you can thank Mickey for that, Ava, who was in your ear and I think pushed that decision. But she's saying, "I didn't even want to put him up, and now he's gone home. I feel bad for him at this point in time." But Vince is saying it was bad and all that. Well, even if Ava wasn't necessarily targeting Zach, I do think she took out kind of one of the key components, the key linchpin on the other side of the house. Sending that Zach out has certainly weakened the side that may not be fully aligned with Ava. So yeah, Vince thinks it was a bad HOH. I don't think it was so bad. All right, we've got Morgan complaining that everyone has had to say goodbye to a friend by now in this house, but for her it's even worse because she had to choose between two friends, and it was just a horrific week for her. And as bad as everyone's feeling, it's worse for her because she had to make a choice between two people. You'll recover, Morgan. Let me put it this way: Morgan's got more important things to worry about this week than feeling bad about how she had to choose between two people last week. you could have been on the block and not having to make that choice, Morgan. Things are always can always be worse than they were. Uh, Maybe, usually. We'll see this week. Maybe not the case so much this week. All right, we got Mickey and Kat talking to each other. Kat's feeling safe, as she should, as I think she should. Mickey is worried that she could be a renom again, maybe not to go up at start, but as a renom, potentially. So everyone thinks that they're powerful enough in this game that Rachel would never want to pull them out and nominate them originally. That they all would be much better as a backdoor choice. I'm not sure Rachel's as worried about that as they may be thinking she is. Kat is saying that the votes that she thinks these two votes that were cast against Vince to save Zach, she thinks they were Will and Rachel, and she's correct. Mickey's arguing that no way. She said Rachel did not vote Vince out. Rachel voted Zach out. Mickey is thinking that it was probably Ashley or Kelly, and Rachel's not doing anything to make her think otherwise. So Ashley, for yet another week, is being potentially blamed for a vote that was cast. Her fault the first week. This week, not even her fault, but she's getting some of the blowback on it. All right, Mickey is complaining that Rachel doesn't talk game with people. That's not the way Rachel plays the game. She just goes around planting seeds and lets things grow up and blow up. And so she's not really the strategy type person when she's talking to other folks. She's just putting little things out there that they're going to develop a life of their own. All right, Mickey is upset because she says that she knows that Rachel this week is not going to put up Kelly or Keanu, and those are the people that Mickey most wants out of the house. So she's saying that this may not be the best week for Mickey, even if she doesn't go on the block herself. Mickey is complaining that Rachel, oh yeah, Mickey's complaining and reminding or telling Ava about, or telling Kat, I'll take that back. Mickey's talking about the fact that Rachel, a couple of weeks ago when Mickey was HOH, had come to Mickey and said, hey, Ava ought to go home rather than trying to stick around for jury. And Ava has a good life and friends and family at home and kids that she wants to see. Mickey basically saying Rachel wanted to go home. She came to me basically begging for me to send her out the door so she didn't have to stick around in the jury house. And now I'm wishing I'd done it. I wish I'd put her old bleep up on the block and sent her home right then and there. That she should have done it. She didn't do it. Now she's feeling bad that she didn't do it. Now remember, that was only a very quick little low moment for Rachel. But Mickey pushing this as Rachel doesn't really deserve to be here. She already begged to go home. So now, whatever. Now she's got the power. Well, whatever. All right. Kat is saying that the votes against Rachel, let's see. She's saying that Rachel lives for the drama in the house. That's all the way Rachel plays the game, according to Kat. She's saying Rachel lives for the drama in the house. And why should we think that Rachel isn't going to want to have the most dramatic nominations ever when she's HOH? And I think that is a very valid and very good viewpoint of Kat. A good point. We know Rachel likes to make a big splash with everything she does. Look at some of her one-liners she's been throwing out. Look at the incredible clothing that she's been wearing for since she's been in the house as well. She likes to be dramatic and make a splash. And so, yeah, I think she may be doing something a little more exciting with the nominations today as well. So well done, Kat, thinking that through. All right, Mickey is worried about losing Morgan or Vince this week, that it's very possible that one of them could head out the door. And yes, it absolutely is. All right, we've got Riley and Kat talking a little bit. They're thinking they should be good this week. Riley's been a little mopey. Someone said, and I can't remember who it was, said he's only got 2 gears, full speed or nothing at all. Well, right now it's kind of nothing at all. He's been a little bit mopey. We'll talk about that in a second, but they're thinking that they probably should be good this week. Can't imagine that they would be on Rachel's target list, and I don't think so either. All right, Ashley is talking to Morgan. She's telling Morgan that, look, even if you go on the block, Morgan, which I'm not saying you aren't, because it certainly is a possibility, but even if you go on the block, you should be safe. We should have the votes to be able to protect you, Morgan. So, yeah, you should be good. Well, I'm not so certain about that. Neither is Morgan. Morgan says, it all depends on who I'm sitting next to. I'm not assuming anything right now, Mickey. I'm not assuming anything, Ashley, about who I may be able to beat. All I know is if I'm on the block, I'm not going to take for granted that I'm going to be safe. I think she's learned a little bit from Zach, isn't she? All right, we've got Morgan and Mickey talking. They're wondering about the nominations and what Rachel may do. A lot of people have kind of questioned Rachel and what she's going to do, and she's not telling anyone. Everyone's aware that she's got some very specific targets, but she's not telling anyone just yet what's going on. Morgan and Mickey are wondering about the noms. Morgan is saying that Rachel's not loyal to anyone in his house. They're talking about Keanu and that Keanu should be safe. And Morgan said, well, Rachel's not loyal to Keanu at all. She thinks that Rachel is just using Keanu and that Keanu just doesn't know it yet. But yeah, she's not going to be any more loyal to Keanu than anyone else. He's just a tool for Rachel to use. All right, we've got Rachel and Kelly talking a little bit. Kelly's talking about wanting to work with Rachel. Says, maybe at the start we got off of the wrong foot, but I think we're on the same page on a lot of stuff. I'd like to work with you. Rachel's saying, well, okay, we could probably make something happen. Rachel is saying that she's going to shake up the house this week. Oh, I love hearing that. Gets me a little excited just hearing her say it. She wants to shake up the house. There's talk about who they want in jury, who they don't want in jury. Rachel is thinking that it probably, likely, possibly could be 2 more evictions until they get to the jury phase. We still don't know. They have not announced whether we're going to have a 7-person or a 9-person jury. So we'll find out here pretty shortly, pretty soon. But she's thinking 2 more evictions until they get to jury. Kelly is bringing up the idea of a final 3 between her and Rachel and Keanu. And seeing if maybe Rachel's into something like that. Rachel saying, maybe, I don't know. I'm not so certain. And I think it's Keanu that she's, at least while talking to Kelly, is a little less certain about. She's saying, how much can we rely on Keanu? I'm just not sure yet. As if on cue, Keanu comes in just a second and says, all right, no alliance talk with me not in here, guys. So he's already seeing these 3 as a potential group. Keanu would love to have Rachel and Kelly, all 3, and him, all 3 working together. Not sure the others are quite on board yet, but he comes in immediately, just kind of assuming that may be the case. Rachel is still denying, even to these 2, that she didn't vote to send Zach out the door. All right, we've got Rachel talking to Keanu a little bit later. I think maybe Kelly had gotten this point. Rachel's telling Keanu, says, look, I'm not putting you up. It just, you're not on the list this week, Keanu. So don't be thinking you're going to be winning another one, because you're not going to be up there in the first place. Kelly, once again, had kind of volunteered that if Rachel needed her up there, and Rachel said, stop, quit volunteering to go on the block. No, just stop it. But Rachel's telling Keanu that she's not putting him up. She's also not putting up Vince. Vince doesn't know that yet, but apparently Rachel's got bigger targets in her sights at this point. Keanu is saying, look, we've got 5 votes to support what you want to do at this point in time, Rachel. He's talking about himself and Vince and Kat and Kelly and Riley. He said, we'll all vote the way we need to vote to protect you and your game and all that. We should have some pretty good control here going forward. They're talking about a final 2. Rachel's saying something about you shouldn't want anyone more than me at a final 2 seat next to you. And Keanu said, oh yeah, I'd love it. It'd be so iconic. Yeah, next to you win and it's cool. If I win, it's cool. That's exactly what I want, Rachel. So final 3, at least when they're talking to Kelly, not so much. When it's just the 2 of them talking, Rachel's all on board. Now, does she mean it with Keanu, or is she, as was mentioned by others, just using him as a bit of a tool? I guess we'll find out as we go forward. All right. Rachel is saying, as much as I want to work with you, Keanu, first of all, I don't want to regret that decision. And he said, oh, you don't have to worry about that. And she says, yeah, but part of that means don't be talking to Vince as much as you're doing. You tell him everything. Stop talking to Vince. And he said, well, I get it. And I'll so noted, and I'll be careful. And she said, no, keep my secrets with you. Don't share them with Vince. He's all right. Well, I understand, and I'll be more careful about it. He's saying that he prioritizes Rachel over Vince. He said, but we need Vince. We need his vote, so we still need to make sure we include him in everything. She said, I get it, but don't be sharing my secrets with Vince going forward. So noted. Later, he talks to the camera. He says, yeah, Rachel called me out on it, and I'll keep that in mind, and I'll be more careful about it going forward. All right, we've got Rachel saying that she knows, and I thought this was interesting, little synergy between these two. Symbiosis, synergy, a little of everything. Rachel is saying, look, Keanu, I need someone that I can trust in this game, and you need someone to keep your messy game in check. I can keep your game in check, but I need to be able to know I can trust you. So she's kind of laying it out there. We play the game differently from one another, but we can certainly help each other going forward. All right. Remember how I said Riley was kind of moping around a little bit? Well, it doesn't get any better. Riley is in the shower crying and just looking very, very down. And I don't know if it's because he lost or he's just feeling stressed or Cat's not fall in love with him as quick as he fell in love with her. I don't know, but Cat's trying to console Riley, and he's just kind of not saying a whole lot right now. He's just feeling bad. All right, we've got Ava and Will talking. Ava's wondering how Morgan voted Zach out. She said he followed her. She followed him around everywhere for 5 weeks. She just followed him around, and now she just suddenly votes him out. Kind of wondering what's going on with that. Ava's thinking that Morgan and Mickey and Vince might have some kind of side thing, a little alliance or working group as well. Well, yeah, that was kind of it. Morgan had Vince and Zach, either one as a bit of a partnership. Ava's wondering as well, not just Morgan, but she's wondering why Mickey wanted Zach out so bad this week. That just seems like she kind of flipped around and suddenly was going after Zach. So wondering what's the thought going on with some of the folks on the other side of the house. All right. Eventually, who wants to see my HOH room? That was probably not a real good Rachel impression, but it's the best I can do. But Rachel gets her HOH room. She gets a letter from Brendan that she's having a hard time even making it through. And I can relate. She's reading the HOH letter. She's got pictures of her kids and Brendan and all of that. She's got music by Britney Spears and very happy that remember she was complaining so much in seasons past. She won all these comps and everything, and she wasn't doing it now. Well, now that she's got her first HOH under her belt, she's just feeling a lot better about everything in general. So very happy to get her HOH room. All right, we've got Morgan and Mickey talking. Eventually, everyone filters out as they tend to do. We've got Morgan and Mickey talking. Morgan is still thinking that she'll go up this week and saying, I can't go home this week. I can't go home. Well, we heard Vince say the same thing last week. No one ever wants to go home. No one ever wants to go home before jury. No one ever wants to go home not in the final two chair. Sometimes it's beyond your control. But Morgan said, I don't want to go home this early. I can't go up on the block, but I think I am going to go up on the block. Mickey is saying, well, hopefully, it's only two on our side that go up, as in, i.e., Vince and Morgan, perhaps. She's saying, if that's the case, we should have the votes to stay. Those votes should be easy to get. Remember, Mickey thinks she controls a lot of votes in this house. So she's saying, as long as it's just a couple of us, we should be okay. We still should be good. Not all is lost just yet, Morgan. Morgan is figuring that Rachel's third pick will be someone designed to make sure Morgan or Vince go home. And I don't know if she's talking about at the time, whether she's talking about someone who can win the competitions to keep the other person off, or if picking someone that would do well in the votes if it was up against Morgan or Vince, or maybe a combination. A little bit later, we hear the name Riley thrown out there. But Morgan's thinking, Rachel's third pick is not going to be a target. It's going to be a pawn, but not just any pawn. Someone's designed to keep us, make sure one of us goes home this week. Mickey is wondering about Lauren potentially going up. And Morgan says, well, if Lauren goes up, I'm sending her out the door immediately. Absolutely. I'll send her out if that's the case. All right. We've got Morgan and Vince talking a little bit. Vince is saying that Keanu had told him, said, hey, dude, you're not going up. So Vince is wondering about that and saying, how much influence does Keanu have over Rachel? How powerful is Keanu at this point in time that he can make that kind of promise to me? Does that mean Rachel's not going to put me up, or is this just Keanu being Keanu? So he's wondering about that. Morgan is saying, well, I don't know, if there's talk that she's not putting you up, she's not going to put Mickey up. Probably not a whole lot of other people that don't have a name of Morgan that she may be considering putting up. Vince eventually thinks that even regardless of what Keanu said, it could be him and Morgan. And he's saying, and she may put someone like Riley up because Riley will potentially win competitions and keep one of us from being able to come off the block. So again, maybe Riley's this strong competitor that Rachel maybe would consider, and it's possible she would based on what she says here in a little bit. All right, so we've got Rachel and Ashley talking. Ashley is warning Rachel that Vince and Lauren are number ones for each other. I think most people probably are seeing that in the house, but she's saying, be careful. They're going to watch out for each other above and beyond anyone else. Rachel is saying that Kat and Riley seemed shook up a little bit when Rachel won, and that surprised her a little bit. Rachel is very worried about a double eviction this week. That everything can go right. I'll get someone out that I want out, but then I could be following right behind them. She's just thinking there could be a double before they get to the jury phase to get rid of that one extra person they started the season with. So a little bit worried about that right now. Ashley is saying, talking about who they do have as support. She's saying, look, Will and Ava, they're going to be ride or dies with us. We should be able to trust them completely and be good with that. She's saying, Keanu and Kelly, maybe not so much. I mean, maybe we can work with them, but we shouldn't necessarily trust them because they're not 100% with us just yet. But a little convenience support, sure, but in terms of actual ride or dies, no way. Rachel is saying that she really has one target, and she's still not saying who it is, but she's saying she's got one target, but she needs to figure out who else to put up on the block against this one target to make sure that that one target doesn't win blockbuster or veto. And again, could this be Riley? Possibly. We'll see. Rachel says at one point that as far as HOH room, been there, done that. She's had the HOH room. She's thinking that she may give the HOH room to Will instead because she's more worried about people trying to have meetings while she's upstairs sleeping. So maybe give it to Will, who likes to usually go to bed a little bit earlier anyway, and she'll stay downstairs and have a little bit more involvement in what's going on. That is a returning player right now, understanding the value of not getting too isolated. Just because you're in power, just because you're in HOH, doesn't mean that you stop playing the game and that you stop having the late night meetings and whatever else conversations need to be had. So Rachel's saying, I'll give it to Will. I'll stay downstairs and make sure that no one's talking around my back or anything. All right, we've got Ava talking to Rachel now. Rachel was up there with Ava and Ashley, and eventually they are going to call it a night, going to bed. As soon as Ashley leaves, Ava sneaks back upstairs to talk to Rachel a little bit. Ava's telling Rachel that Morgan and Vince are a lot more connected maybe than Rachel even understands. That Morgan, she wanted to save Zach as well, but Morgan and Vince also are working closely together. Rachel is talking about Ashley and saying, we're working with her, but Ashley's really trying to mislead me on some stuff, and so I got to be careful about that. Ava is thinking that Morgan and Mickey are still working together. They've had their goods and bad situations, but she says, I think the two of them are still very much working together. Ava's also saying that Riley and Kat have never said anything about Rachel to her. And she says, Kat kind of keeps her mouth shut, and Riley hadn't said anything about you. So they're probably good with us right now, Rachel. She's saying that Morgan would have put Rachel up if she won. So, which is true. I sure it's true. And I think Rachel's aware of that as well. Rachel is wondering about Vince. She's saying, why does everyone love Vince so much? 8-2 vote, 8-2 vote to send out Zach over Vince. And so she's a little surprised at that. Rachel's talking about Mickey. She said, I like Mickey a lot. And Ava says, I think that Mickey is repairable, I think is the word she used. She's not always been perfect with me, but I think she's repairable. I think she would work with us going forward. So certainly they're still counting Mickey on their side of the column when it comes to who's for us and who's against us. And then finally, we've got Keanu. Vince is in the shower. Keanu comes in, is talking to Vince and saying, look, right, just so you know, Rachel's going to be making a home run swing with her noms this week. If I'm Vince, my first question is, am I a home run or am I just a sacrifice bunt? I don't know, but Keanu's saying she's going big this week, Vince, so just so you know. Keanu does tell Vince, says, I know you're worried about getting put on the block. Just know this. that if Rachel comes after, he didn't say if she puts you on the block. He said if Rachel comes after you, then she's going to have to come after me as well. So kind of leaving some wiggle room in there that maybe Vince could be a pawn, but in terms of targeting, she knows not to come after you because then she'll have to come after me as well. I'm not going to stand by to let that happen. I don't think Rachel's going to be putting Vince up, certainly not as the primary target. But if she does, Keanu's saying, hey, Riley's not the only one that can get upset and go after people if they put up people they're trying to protect. So he's trying to make Vince feel a little better. Vince is appreciative of that commitment as well. He's saying as well, he's telling Keanu's telling Vince, saying, look, if you and Rachel can get over this thing that y'all have had with each other, if y'all can get over that, the three of us could go a long way down the road. You just need to figure out how y'all can get that resolved. Uh, I think Vince is aware of that as well. Vince just he can't get out of his own head about being so paranoid and worried about his relationship with Rachel that would allow him to move forward. So, and Keanu's pointing out, just figure out, quash your beef, whatever with Rachel, and we can move on. We can do all kinds of things. And with that, everyone's in bed. I think Vince, whether he's on the block, not on the block, dressed like an egg, not as an egg, Vince is always the last one in bed. Vince finally gets in bed, I don't know, a little after 5 o'clock. So it made for a late evening. But there you have it, guys. So again, today we've got nominations. Rachel's got one target. If it was my guess, I would say Morgan. And I can see Rachel considering that, kind of swinging for the fences. We'll see who may go up alongside Morgan, or if she wants to just completely surprise and shock all of us. Any way it goes, it's going to be a fun nomination day, and I'm looking forward to seeing the repercussions of it later this evening. Guys, have a fantastic Friday. Get ready for the weekend. I will be back tomorrow morning to give you an update on how the noms went, and we'll talk a little bit about OTEV taking place tomorrow and how that may affect the rest of the week. Have a great one, guys. Until tomorrow morning, SKD 143. Cheers, my friends.